Good evening, everyone. We'll just give it another minute or so for people that are still trying to join on. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our first general kindergarten information evening. We're happy to have parents and caregivers join us for this session, especially taking time out on such a beautiful evening. It is our first time doing a general session like this, so we hope that you will find it informative and that it will answer some of the questions that you have about kindergarten for your children as well as yourself. My name is Diane McGonigal, and I'm the District Principal for Early Learning and Care. I'm joined tonight by Alex Quisberg, Learning Coordinator for Early Years, and Veronica Harris, a Clinical Counselor on the Integrated Child and Youth Team. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that I'm greeting you this evening from the traditional unceded territory of the Snuneymuxw First Nation. I've had the honor to live, work, and play in Snuneymuxw territory for 34 years, and I raise my hands to the Snuneymuxw people for living in reciprocity with these beautiful lands. Tonight, our goal is to share some general information about kindergarten in our school district, share some information about a typical day in kindergarten, and share some tips and tricks for supporting the transition to kindergarten for both the children and their parents and caregivers. There will be time at the end for questions, and you can put your questions in the Q&A part, or at the end of our information sharing, you can raise your hand and ask your questions verbally as well. Just a note that we are recording the webinar and plan to stop that recording once the question period starts. I wanted to start by showing you where you can find some information about kindergarten on our school district website. So I'm just going to share my screen for a few moments. Alex, are you able to see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. So under the Families tab, under the Schools tab, oh, it's not showing up unless I click on it here. Under the Schools tab, under New Families, there is a kindergarten students. So if you click on there, it will bring you to our Coming to Kindergarten page. And there are some things on here you might want to share with your children. There is a little video about a kindergarten class at Fairview that was filmed a couple of years ago. And there's information about registration, but I'm assuming everyone on this call is registered already if you got the email. Some information about gradual entry, typical day in kindergarten, delaying kindergarten enrollment, And lots of information here on frequently asked questions. And if you click on the plus sign, it will give you more information. There's also information about if you have a child with some diverse abilities and you'd like some more information, you can go to this part of the website. And there are some brochures down here about the washrooms at school. We find sometimes kids aren't as used to using public washrooms, and sometimes the loud toilets can scare them. So there's some information there. There's also a brochure called What is for Lunch and Snack that you can read with your child, and information on a Welcome to Kindergarten Getting to Know You questionnaire. These will be distributed at the Welcome to Kindergarten events, and you'll be asked to return them by the end of the year. But if you want to and you have access to a printer, you can print it out, fill it out, and bring it into your Welcome to Kindergarten event. Down the bottom is Countdown to Kindergarten, things that have already happened and what's upcoming. And you'll see we're just 123 days away. And at the very bottom of the page are some links to some documents from the Ministry of Education and Childcare that are related to families and play and starting kindergarten. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. I wanted to talk about some of those events that will be coming up for you at the end of the year here. You will be getting an invitation from your school to join in a Welcome to Kindergarten event. Those will be emailed out to families, and you can also check the date or time ahead on that website that I just showed you, and the events at the bottom. There's a link to the Welcome to Kindergarten events across the district. This event's an opportunity to welcome you and your child into the school. There will be stations or activities set up to participate in. Information will be shared, and there'll be an opportunity for you to ask some questions as well. You'll also get a chance to meet some of the current staff at the school. As we know, things can change over the summer, so there might be different kindergarten teachers or even a different principal at the school, but you will meet the current staff that are there. Each child will come home with a play pack full of goodies that complement the 4 living inquiries in the Early Learning Framework document. Those refer to well-being and belonging, engagement with others, materials, and the world, communication and literacies, identity, social responsibility, and diversity. And in the play packs, there's little cards about each of those areas with some ideas for families and some more information. If you're not able to attend the Welcome to K event at your school, not to worry. You can call the school to arrange a time to come and pick up your play pack, and to also ask about any other opportunities to visit the school. Some will set up a time for you to come and have a little tour or visit. And I know some schools in August also have a sort of an open house for new families. So there will be other opportunities for you. In September, our kindergarten students start out on a gradual entry. This gradual entry week often catches parents by surprise, and we recognize it can be difficult to juggle the different times, but it is really helpful for the students to have time to get used to the school environment and being with gradually larger groups of children. Even if your child has attended daycare, a kindergarten class is different because it can have up to 20 students, but only 1 adult, and children are usually used to more adults for that size of a group. Gradual entry information for your school might be shared at your Welcome to Kindergarten event, or it might be sent via email over the summer. Kindergarten students do not attend at all at any of our schools on that first official day of school, which is the Tuesday after Labor Day weekend. Only grades 1 and up attend on that day. Starting on the Wednesday, kindergarten students will attend for short individual or small group sessions, and the parents are usually invited to attend the first session. This may be on the Wednesday or the Thursday. Over the course of the next few days, students will attend for longer amounts of time and with increasingly larger groups of children. The first full day of school for kindergarten students is on Wednesday, September 11th. And that's the first full day across the district for all of the schools. And if you are worried about that for your child, if for some reason you think they're not quite ready for the full days yet, you can talk to the kindergarten teachers. Another thing to mention during the gradual entry week is your child may or may not be with their kindergarten teacher. Schools do it differently. Sometimes the student or the teachers share the groups of children. There might be 20 children come one for a morning, but with 2 different kindergarten teachers, and they're putting their class lists together during that week. And one of the reasons for this is that they don't know the children yet, but also that we have students who might have moved over the summer or new students coming in, and they try to balance the classes. I am now going to turn it over to Alex to talk about a typical day in kindergarten.
Thank you, Diane. It's so exciting. Kindergarten is such a wonderful time filled with exploration and play, learning, and growth. Your child is going to have the opportunity to develop foundational skills, make new friends, and discover their unique talents and interests. And across all of the kindergarten classes, things might look a little bit different, but generally there are some routines that you can expect. And so I'm going to go over some of those routines that your child can expect during the day. During the morning, often a lot of kindergarten classes start with something called a soft start. This gives children an opportunity to come in, to hang up their backpack, to bring up to change into their inside shoes, and then settle into an activity to start the day in a soft way. And in some classrooms, they might gather at the carpet in the beginning of the day. And after this, a lot of kindergarten classes will have something called a circle time or carpet time. And this is an important part of the day where the class gathers together as a group. During this time, the children may be singing songs, reading poems, listening to stories, practicing counting, or engaging in discussions about the day's activities. Every kindergarten classroom will have something that may be called center time or explorations or choice time. This is an opportunity for your children to explore their interests through different activities and develop various skills through hands-on experiences. This gives them some autonomy over what they do and a chance to do what they love to do and to play with their classmates. Also, during the day, they will have some structured activities, such as a math lesson or a literacy activity, science experiment, or an arts and craft. These activities will align with the early learning curriculum, and they promote skill development and work on some of those foundational skills. Every day, there are 2 recesses, one short recess in the morning and a long recess after lunch or before lunch. During this time, children go outside, and when you're in kindergarten, in the beginning of the year, you may wear a pinny and go into a designated area. During recess, there is adult supervision, and the supervising adults outside wear high visibility vests. So the children will be introduced into who those people are. Sometimes it's teachers during short recess and other support workers and administration during the longer recess. Also, during this time, it's important that we send extra clothes, because sometimes on rainy days, or dress for the weather too, but on rainy days, your child may fall in a puddle or get muddy. So having a change of clothes at school is important in case that happens, or for other reasons, having a spill or an accident. Snack time and lunch time. There's 2 sort of whole group opportunities to eat. So packing your lunches, thinking about maybe a different pouch or somewhere where your child knows where the snack is and where their full lunch is. Snacks and lunch are expected to be packed in from home, but often schools have things on hand for if a child forgets something or is hungry and wants more food, that in the school we're often able to make sure that they have enough. For bathrooms, Some kindergarten classrooms have a bathroom in the classroom, and others have one that is located close outside of the classroom. In these cases, the teacher will have a routine or a procedure on what it looks like to go to the washroom. So often, children will go on the buddy system or have some way that the students know. And during the day, kindergarten teachers will remind students before going out for recess or before having lunch that it's time to use the washroom. Um, Another thing is a lot of kindergarten is around social emotional learning. The teachers incorporate lots of activities that foster friendships and teach conflict resolution and promote empathy and kindness among the students. And it is a very, very active day, so we do ensure that there are times for quiet and calm. Usually after coming in from recesses outside or lunch, that a quiet time is sometimes it might be that the lights are down low, there's soft music, children are choosing to do activities that are puzzles or drawing and looking at books, things to help the students get that quiet time. We know that coming into kindergarten, some students may be used to having a nap still during the day. So ensuring that they have that restful time. So that's what to expect. Also, during the week, there will be opportunities to visit the gym and potentially the library. And sometimes music is taught within the classroom, and sometimes students will get to go to a music classroom with another teacher. So lots of fun, and it's filled with play and joy, and it's such an exciting time for your kiddos. And I'm going to pass it over to Veronica, who's going to give us some information on how to help with the transition of going into kindergarten. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. So my name is Veronica. I am a clinical counselor here with the school district on the Integrated Child and Youth team. My background is working with parents and caregivers, young children, and supporting parents in that role. So what I would like to share with you today is just some information on, how to support our little ones, but also how to support ourselves as our kids transition into kindergarten. So I'm also a mother myself, and my kids go to school here, and I'm a Ladysmith, so I'm familiar with these big transitions and what that's like. And I know for every child it is different. And I think it's really important for us to really understand and trust that every transition to kindergarten for children will look different. We know our children best as parents and caregivers, and we have to really just kind of respect that and understand that part of knowing who our kids are, and not get too caught up in how you think that transition should look like, and really trust, what you feel your child needs or what you need in that. So I wanted to start out with that, because I know it can feel pretty daunting, that first big transition, if it's your first time, bringing your kiddo into public school. That can feel pretty intimidating for some parents and caregivers. So just wanted to put that out there. What it can also be really helpful and to understand. So for children at the age of 5, developmentally, they're very much still emotional kind of feeling beings. What this means is in their development, they're still very much in the emotional parts of their brain. And this can be really helpful for us to understand as parents and caregivers, is that we can give them, instruction on how things are going to go, and we'll give them kind of logical information. But how that lands for them in their own little beings of how it feels can show up in all sorts of ways. So when I look at how we can support our kids in transitioning into kindergarten, is really understanding their emotional needs in that. Especially for kids that may have not been in the care of anyone else, that may have not been in daycare or in larger groups of kids that have really had a nice, like, close-knit circle of caregivers and what we call like attachment figures, that going into kindergarten can feel really intimidating for them too. So something to keep in mind about your own child and what sort of caregiver roles they've had in their lives, if they've been in group daycares, if they've just been with grandma or aunties, or so them coming into kindergarten is a whole new big world for them, and it's a whole bunch of new people for them to get to know and to understand the routines. So it can be a really big adjustment for these little ones. And sometimes I think we kind of forget about that as adults, because we've been through a lot of things ourselves and we forget, what is it like to be 5 and come into this big new environment and have to follow all these rules and do all these things. So that adjustment time can, it can be really difficult for some kids. And I think we just need to respect that. When we also look at this kind of concept of like separation anxiety as well, to understand that for most kids to be separated from their parent or caregiver at the age of like 4 or 5 or 6 should cause some distress for them, because they know who their safe person is, and that's their parent, that's their caregiver, that's the person that they know is going to be there for them. And now we are kind of push them off and be like, okay, here's your new teacher, here's your new classroom. And we want them to be excited about it, but they might not be. So we kind of have to teach them how to bridge that connection. And we can help with that as parents and caregivers. Something to keep in mind is also how we feel about that. How do I feel about the fact that my kid's going into kindergarten? What emotions and thoughts and fears or worries are coming up for me? So that can be helpful to reflect on that, and also know, what do I need to take care of myself so that I can take care of my child as they transition into kindergarten. So some kind of helpful tips around that is really introducing your child to the concept of kindergarten. If they don't even know what the school is or where it is or what it looks like, it can be helpful to bring them there. Or if it's in a, close to your community, visit there often, go and play at the playground, peek in the windows, see what the classrooms look like, so they can start to be curious about what that space looks like. And also for yourself as a parent, just to orient to like, well, I haven't even been to the school yet. So you kind of want to check it out. And we want to let our children take the lead in that and being curious about what that experience is going to be like. We want them to be in a place where it can feel kind of playful and lighthearted, where we can be like, okay, we want them to be enthusiastic, but we got to also let them take the lead on what they might be interested in or, excited about as they venture into kindergarten in that way. So that's one way we can kind of support them, is getting them to start to be curious about what kindergarten's going to be like and starting to talk about that. Some strategies on how to bridge them into the classroom. And I mean, this is a little tricky when we don't know necessarily who their teacher is, but even talking about who the teacher is or who the principal is and what you know about them, and sharing information about those people, so that it becomes more relational too. They can see, okay, this is somebody my parent knows. This is somebody that, my caregiver knows. So then they can kind of start to trust, okay, that's somebody that I, might feel safe with. So we want to like have conversations around that too, and helping them understand that these are people that are there for you at the school. And that care for you as well. So having conversations around that, checking out the space that they're in, and inevitably hard feelings are going to come up for kids. It might not show up right away when they first start. They're going to be super enthusiastic, and then it'll be like, 2 months down the road, and then they're like, I don't want to go to kindergarten anymore. So then we're going to have to help them navigate those emotions. And that's where, our role as parents and caregivers can be difficult, especially if we've got, our own stuff going on and we need to get to work, or we need to do a lot of all the other things that come with life. So creating some space to support our children's emotional well-being, it takes some of our capacity, and we need to be mindful of that there's going to be some big feelings that come up, and how we support our kids, how we have conversations around that, and let them know that it's okay to feel those feelings, because this is hard and new and all of the things that come with that. So creating some, practice around talking about emotions or checking in with feelings. You might notice different behaviors show up, or all of a sudden they come home and then they're just melting down, and yet they're doing fine at school. Those are pretty common things to expect as our kids venture into these new spaces and adjust to new routines and new people and all of that. So again, these are things that we can expect and not to be, concerned about. And what's most important is being able to really talk to our children about their feelings and hold space for them however we can in our own capacity as parents and caregivers too. So yes, thinking about their emotional needs, because at this age, developmentally, they are still very much, these little emotional feeling little beings. So however we can show up for them can be helpful. Some other things to consider as well is routines, extracurricular activities. So yes, having a predictable, regular routine is really important. Maybe not packing the schedule super full for these little ones, so that they have some downtime when they get home, that they can slow down and kind of just decompress. And again, even for ourselves as parents too, that we have some time in our day to just slow down a little bit and connect with each other and be present. And those are the opportunities then we get to, talk to our kids and see how they're doing, and just be with them and reassure them that, the parent or caregiver is there for them to be present even after they've had their full day at school. So building some of that time into our routine can be really helpful too, just more as a preventative kind of a practice to support their emotional well-being and ours as well. So there's some things to consider there. Yeah, I think that was it as far as what I was hoping to share. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Alex, for giving us some insight into what the day would look like, and to Veronica for sharing those tips and tricks and ideas. One thing Veronica said really resonated with me, and just to remind you that you do know your children best, and that's what we say too for our incoming questionnaire. We want to know from you about your child. What are their likes? Do they have fears? How can we support them? How to best help them if they're feeling a little bit upset or out of sorts. All of those things are helpful, and you will become a team with your child's kindergarten teacher. And as they go up through the grades, you'll get to know that, there are other great teachers, also other staff in the school, maybe the librarian or the music teacher. Also, schools have IST teachers who can help if students are having some difficulties. Schools have counselors. Some are part-time there, some are full-time. We also have child and youth family support workers. So there's lots of people that can become part of you and your child's team. Another thing about the school is you will likely get a school tour either at the Welcome to Kindergarten event or at some point during the gradual entry time. So there will be a chance for you to sort of know where your child will be for the day. What does the library look like? What does the music room look like? Those sorts of things for them. And we didn't touch upon it, but every school has a parent advisory council, a PAC group. So we encourage kindergarten parents to get familiar with their PAC group, go to the meetings if you can. You learn a lot about the school that way. And some PAC groups or schools have a Facebook page, or they might be on Instagram, so you can look and check that out. And following along might help you get more of a sense, a feel for the school if it's your first child coming in and you don't already know some things about that school environment. So we will now open, oh, Alex, did you want to
Oh,
add something?
I was just going to say that we have one question in the chat right now. And so I was going to share that, but I think that you were about to invite any questions in the chat or by using the hand function, if
Yeah.
people would like to speak. But the first question is, for the Welcome to K event, can younger siblings join as well if they don't have care for them?
Absolutely. We know that not everybody has extra people around. If you can find someone, it's nice to have that special time with your child, but absolutely siblings can join in if needed. And some of the Welcome to K events might be held in the gym, a more open space. Some might, the students, some and parents might be divided into groups, and you might go to a classroom. So that looks different in each school as well. Any other questions? Don't be shy. Chances are, if you have the question, somebody else is wondering it as well. I think something's come through the chat. Are there designated playgrounds for the kinder kiddos? Yes, there is at the beginning of the year for sure. So the kindergartens usually wear pennies at the beginning of the year, and they're usually assigned a certain area to play in. And part of that gradual entry week will be the kindergarten teachers taking the kindergartens outside when there's not as many kids around so that they can experience what the playground equipment is like. Often, if it's a large school, they might limit other ages onto the playground for a time. It might be kindergarteners and grade 1s and 2s one day, kindergartens and grade 3s and 4s the next day, or it might be divided up by the different recess breaks as well. So it depends on the school and the layout. Some might have a primary playground and an intermediate playground, depending on how big the school ground is.
Okay, we have a couple more questions. Another question is any guest number limits at the events? I think this is talking about the Welcome to Kindergarten events.
No, if both parents, if they're a two-parent family, if both parents can come, that's great. Sometimes a grandparent or a main caregiver might come. I've had nannies come to events before as well, because they'll be the ones picking up the children and making the connections with teachers as well, or maybe bringing them to the school to get them familiar with it.
The next question is, how do you determine which children go into which classrooms when there's more than one kindergarten class?
So good question. And especially for kindergarten, teachers don't know the kids as well. By the time they get to grade 1, you know some more things about the kids. So the teachers do the best based on information from what they might gather at the Welcome to Kindergarten event. Also the information that you put on your questionnaires. The kindergarten teachers will look through those. They try to have a balance of things like children born early in the year and children born later in the year, boys and girls. Sometimes if it's not your first child in school and the kindergarten teacher was one that you had with your older kids, they might have the child in the class because then they already have a relationship with you. So a lot of different factors go in, and the biggest thing is to balance out the classes with the bit of information that we know about the kids. And sometimes schools will also have a K1 class. And that is really just dependent on the number of students that enroll in the school. And if it's a K1 class, again, we try to balance out that class as well. The grade 1 curriculum has lots of opportunities for learning through play as well. Sometimes some schools may ask parents, they may say, well, we have a K1 option. Would you like that for your child? Are there any reasons, for that? Sometimes we might have a child who is the third child in a family and is a January birthday, and the parents say, oh, it would be really good if they could be in with, a little bit older children, that sort of thing. So there's lots of factors that go in, but they do take some input from families as well.
The next question, is there a school supply list for kindergarten? So with that, I believe that you will give a fee and that the teachers at the schools will do a bulk order of supplies, which will be shared amongst the students, is common practice. And then the other question is, are Muddy Buddies required? Absolutely not. No required Muddy Buddies, but being dressed for the weather every day is really important. Having something for the rain, even some kiddos want to bring umbrellas. Most days, children will be going outside, even when it's raining. We're on the wet coast. We know we have lots of rainy days, and being outside for them during that weather is super important to learn to love. All types of weather is really healthy for all of us. If the weather is really adverse, winds and things like that, sometimes there will be an inside day. But in most cases, the children will be going outside. So which leads to the next is indoor shoes. Yes, sending a pair of indoor shoes that can be worn to gym. So something that is a runner is very helpful. Students in kindergarten, because we're playing throughout the day, we spend a lot of time on the carpet and on the ground. And with muddy boots and muddy shoes, it can be a bit of a disaster. So sending an indoor pair of shoes that the students will change into each time they come in from outside is important. And then, the next question is, there was an invite from a school that was not their catchment. So should you expect your invite for Welcome to Kindergarten should have come from the school that you're registered at. If that did not happen, I would encourage you to reach out to that school, and also reach out to the school that you registered at. Diane, do you have anything to add for that one?
No, I would say that. And sometimes I had a couple parents reach out to me because they didn't receive the email about this night and they heard about it from a friend. And we looked into it and something wasn't checked off about which email is preferred on the registration form or when it went through the electronic registration. So there might be some sort of a little glitch there if you haven't got yours. So just reach out to the school, give them a call, and the secretary will look up the information and make sure that you are sorted out.
Great. And next we have, could you touch on the process for taking the school bus and any tips around that?
Okay, so I was previously principal at Pleasant Valley School, and we had a kiddos bus from there. So on the website, there is information about busing, and you can put in your address and see if you are within a zone that you can take the bus to school. Usually the bus drivers have the kindergarten kids sit up near the front of the bus. And so that it's a little bit quieter up there. They could keep a closer eye on them. They can remind them about their stop once they know it as well. Sometimes it helps if they have an older sibling or an older student that they know from the neighborhood that they're waiting or going on the bus with. We do ask that somebody is at the bus stop until the bus arrives to pick up the kids. And the bus drivers will also not drop off kindergarten kids if there's not an adult there to meet them. And what they do is they just keep the kid on the bus and they usually radio to the school. We start to phone the parents or caregivers, and then the child comes back to school and we arrange to connect them up with their parents. The bus can be a little bit loud, so if your child is sensitive to noise, if they have a little stuffy that they like to bring or something you can click on to their backpack, that might be helpful for them. Veronica, do you have any other ideas?
Yes, I think that's a great one, having a stuffy or something that they can have on the bus, or even, a book or activity or a little activity book that's just for on the bus, that they can do, whether it's stickers or reading or comic, well, whatever they're to at that age, with even just their favorite book, something else to look at. Can be helpful, but also getting to know the other kids in the neighborhood too that might be on the bus already, that you can kind of familiarize your child with and introduce to, or getting to know the other kids at the bus stop and the families that are there too can be helpful. as a parent, but also, you know, for your child too, so they know who's there and who to expect and who can maybe help them out when they're there too.
And the bus routes usually have the same driver unless they're away sick. So if you have an opportunity, even in June or something, to go to a bus stop and to introduce yourself and meet the bus driver and have your child, you know, give a little wave and a hello, that can help them as well.
We have a question. A family trip is booked in December. Is it okay to miss a couple of days of kindy?
Absolutely. And they will get so much out of your family trips. There's so many learning opportunities there. And then they can come back and share that all with their classmates and their teachers. So absolutely not a problem.
Is there a way to find out which playground at your school is designated for the kindergarten as not to excite them about going on another playground that looks more enticing? Yeah.
Yeah, I would ask that at the Welcome to Kindergarten event. You could say ask the teacher there what's the normal routine. And sometimes if the kindergartens are allowed in a certain playground or a certain area of the playground for the recess times, often when the kindergarten teachers take them out for a body break, they'll take them into other areas of the playground to get them familiar with that as well. So for example, I'll speak about Pleasant Valley where I most recently was, and there's a big forest area. We don't let the kindergartens in there at the beginning of the year, but the kindergarten teachers will take them in there to play. And then as the kindergarten kids get more confident, then their playground area is usually expanded and eventually they don't wear the pennies anymore. Sometimes it can be confusing for them when their bell goes and which way do I go to my classroom? And so that's one of the reasons too that we keep them in that area together. And sometimes they'll have the kindergartners line up and, you know, get walked over towards their classroom area with one of the adults on the playground as well. But I would certainly ask that at the Welcome to Kindergarten event.
Next one. Oh, it says, I just want to say that I appreciate this meeting, even though it's my 4th time sending a kid to K. It's my last one and I'm getting all the feelings. And oh, I feel you. It's even every grade. I feel it with my son when the summer's over. It's such a special and exciting time that coming into school. We have another question, which is what is the best way for parents to communicate with the teachers in the school, since sometimes pick up and drop off can be chaotic? Absolutely. And and Diane maybe wants to add on to this, but it's going to be dependent on the teacher. And that's another thing. Once you find out who your teacher is, they will let you know which ways are the best ways to get in contact or when's the best time to set up meetings and things like that. You will have the opportunity to have welcoming conversations to connect with your teacher in the beginning of September. And so it may be email, it may be phone call, it may be during pickup and drop off. It's chaotic for a moment, but sometimes, you know, the chaos ends very quickly once the children are picked up. So but for some teachers, it might be at the end of the day. So it will be dependent. And for school as well, I think that emailing or calling the school to set up something. Diane, anything else there?
Yeah, sometimes a kindergarten class will have a back and forth binder. Sometimes it's a planner, but sometimes it's just a folder that they've got. So there's an opportunity for you to write a note for the teacher in there as well if there's a change for the end of that day or if you'd like to arrange a meeting. But I would concur with Alex. It's different with every teacher. Some teachers too will send out a weekly email so you have an idea of what's happening in the classroom. Some teachers send out a paper newsletter still. So it really just depends from teacher to teacher and also with parents as well, because some parents aren't great at checking their emails as often and whatnot. So it's good to talk to the teacher about that.
How do we find the bell schedules for each school?
For most schools, they should be on the school websites. So from the district website, you can click on schools at the top, and then you can find your child's school in there. Most schools start between, I would say 8:30 and 8:45 in the morning, and end between 2:15 and 2:30 in the afternoon, but it should be on the website for you. And if not, you can ask at the Welcome to K event or even call the school.
If my daughter will not be able to attend the first week because of traveling, is there a way to do the reentry, the gradual entry process?
Well, depending when you're back, kindergarten might be in full swing at that time, but you can talk to the school and make a plan if you would like your child to attend just for an hour for a couple of days, or just for the morning for a couple of days, whatever you think would work best for your child, that the school will accommodate that for you as well. And I did want to say earlier in the conversation, I think Alex and Veronica both mentioned it, expect your kids to be very tired at the end of the day.
What happens if your child has an EpiPen and an anaphylaxis allergy?
All right, thank you for bringing up that. Any allergies that the school should know about, there was an opportunity for you to put it on the registration form, but the kindergarten questionnaire also asks that. The kindergarten teachers will get a lot of information from the office, but it can often take a couple of weeks. So kindergarten teachers like to have it right there on hand for them. And if you do have an anaphylaxis allergy, there is paperwork for you to fill out. You could connect with your school before June, the end of June, to get that paperwork. It might involve the doctor signing off on what the plan is for your child if they have an allergic reaction. We also have trained first aiders in all of the schools, and they know about kids with anaphylaxis as well. We usually get you to bring in 2 EpiPens, one that's left in a secure spot in the classroom and would be brought on field trips with your child. Depending on their allergy, it can be brought outside while they're outside for recess or lunchtime, and then an extra one to leave in the office. And then it'll have the copy of the plan will be with the teacher, and they'll leave those notes for any substitutes that come in, as well as a copy is in the office.
Do kindergartens have any options for sports, or is it mostly play? I can handle this. Within the school day and the organized school sports, there are no organized sports for kindergartens. However, the kindergarten children will attend gym 3 times a week or even more if they are sharing a gym time, and they will engage in physical activity every day, even if they are not in the gym. Some games may be played. They may have basketballs and play basketball, and soccer and play a little bit of soccer, but not in the traditional sense of having an organized sport and going and playing different teams. Working on all those skills that will help when or if they are in organized sports outside of school. So working on kicking, throwing, catching, all of those sorts of skills that will happen, but not on a traditional team. But there are some schools have Pacific Sports available throughout the year, which is an opportunity for children to sign up for an after-school program in some schools. So just keep an eye out, because opportunities do come along in the schools. And then as well, there's the other information you can ask, and it's great when you connect with parents because they may know of some other sports that are available in the community.
Alex, I've just jumped over to the Q&A. There's some questions in there too, so I can do those if you keep an eye looking on the chat. So there's a question about, is there only one French Immersion K class in each school, North Oyster in particular? The number of classes depends on the number of students enrolled. There is a limit of 20 students in a kindergarten class or in a K1 class. And that's a provincial guideline that all schools and school districts need to adhere to. So if the school gets 26 kindergarten registrations, then it might be 2 small classes of 13, or it might be a K and a K1. So it really depends on how many people register. Shall we get confirmation of registration for attending the catchment school? Usually not. They would only contact you if the school was full. So generally, if you register before about June 15th, you usually get into your catchment school. We've had a few schools getting full a little bit earlier, and so then the families would be notified, and you would be on a wait list for your catchment school. They would place you at the next closest school, and then when a spot opens up, you would have an opportunity to move, and that could be mid-year, or you could, if your child gets settled into a class, you could choose to stay out that year and go back to your catchment school the next year. We have a shy child needing a parent around a lot. At the Welcome to K event and further, how much parent involvement is allowed until the child is comfortable on their own at school? So I'll let Veronica talk to some of that, but I'll just speak to coming in. The Welcome to Kindergarten event is usually the parents and the children together. If they separated you at all, it would be for like a school tour, but you could always just stay with your child or bring your child along with you. For some of the gradual entry times, there are opportunities for the parents to be there with the children. And beyond that, it kind of depends on you and your child and the teacher and what your child needs. Your child may be happy to know that you're going to sit outside on the bench and be there for the next few minutes. Or maybe you're there watching at the window, or maybe you're there in the hallway, or maybe parents are welcomed in for the soft start for the morning. So it just depends, and you would I would talk to your teacher to figure out the best plan for your child and you. Veronica, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, those are great reminders, I think, for parents and caregivers too, that, you know, even if your child is in the classroom, that you can still be close by, and reminding them that you're close by as well. And really understanding that it is a time of transition for them. So again, you know your child best, and having just really honest conversations with the teacher about what's going on and how to meet that need. Other ways to support our children is, you know, giving them an item, like something even personal that, you know, either of ours or even a picture of ourselves for them to have with them while they're in the classroom. Reminding them that, yes, I will be here to pick you up, and you can be very specific about, I will pick you up at this time and this is the plan, and really just give them all of that information as well. Really, if you can too, kind of facilitating a kind of one-to-one connection with your child and the teacher that they have, and however you can have a bit of that time to just have a one-on-one type of conversation with yourself and your child and the teacher, and really just as a getting to know them as well, where you can, you know, ask questions about the teacher, or things where, you know, your child might have certain interests, and you're trying to kind of bridge that connection with the teacher and say, oh yeah, my child's like really interested in this, and what are your interests? So we're trying to help our children get to know, who is this adult that they're spending time with all day? So we can get a little creative with that. And again, it's really just trying to foster that relationship part of it, and that it can be playful and fun too.
Thank you. Last question, a couple in here. What time does school start? So it's usually between 8:30 and 8:45. And again, if you check on the website, and if the time's not there, then if you phone the school, they can let you know. And how soon will we get the schedule for the gradual entry, the slow start week? That really varies school to school. Some actually have parents sign up during the Welcome to K event, or some might assign you to a group like A, B, C, or D during that Welcome to K event. Some schools send it out the first week of July. The secretaries email it out, and some it might be a little bit later on in the summer. But we do recognize that's a tricky time for parents, so schools are trying to get that figured out sooner.
We have a question here about what is the earliest time for drop off and pick up, I think before or after the bell. I think this is asking.
So generally supervision starts 15 minutes before school and ends 15 minutes after school. Usually we ask that somebody stays with the kindergarten child at least until at the beginning of the year until they're really comfortable in the morning, and whether that be the daycare person dropping them off or the parent or guardian. You can let them play on the playground, but just sort of be there to make sure that when that bell goes, they know their way and they get to their classroom. And after school, the kindergarten teachers usually like to have eyes on the adult picking up the child. And if your child is a bus student, then often there's a plan. Sometimes depending when the bus leaves, the kindergarten teacher will dismiss the other kids, get the bus kids to wait with that teacher and then take them over separately. Or maybe they'll have an older student come and take them over. Or maybe the adult that's supervising at the bus might stop by the kindergarten classroom and bring the kindergarten kids over. We really want to make sure that they are safe at the beginning of the year. There's a question here about if you're coming from out of catchment, will your child be able to join a school bus route if there's a stop closer to your house than the school itself? That you need to work out with the transportation department. So there is an email, if you click on the bus link on the school webpage, there is an email directly to transportation there. And also if you sign up your child first as well for the different stops, and then you can email in your question, and they also, I believe, have their phone number on there for answering specific questions.
We have, what kind of food restrictions are there for lunches other than allergens like nuts? A friend who had lunch taken away because of not being considered healthy. I can speak a little bit to this. Is actually our entire kindergarten team had an in-service with a dietitian just recently, which was really, really great, and talking about these things around food. And it ultimately, the parent provides the food, and we allow the student to eat which food is provided, other than if there are allergies. And that will be very specific. If there's potentially a pine nut allergy or something, you will be notified from the school in the beginning of the year if there are any restrictions around that. But you as a parent, you choose what goes in your child's lunch, and your child should be able to choose from that what they're eating. Anything to add with that, Diane?
No, I think the only thing is we do discourage really high sugar content things, like a can of pop would be discouraged regardless of the grade. Kindergarten up to grade 7 would be discouraged from having at school. And if you look on the website again at the What's for Lunch and Snack, it talks a little bit there too about, like, if you are from a different culture, by all means, send what your child is used to eating. Don't feel like you have to, change to a sandwich or something if that's not what your child likes to eat. And that little pamphlet gives ideas about different ways to pack a lunch and those sorts of things as well.
A question, what exactly do the pennies do? I'm sorry, I should have clarified that. The pennies are to help identify the kindergarten students when they're out at recess. There are a lot of students outside. It helps the supervisors to know who the kindergarten students are, just to make sure as they're starting to navigate the playground, to have eyes on the kindergarteners, and as well, even for the students. It's an opportunity for older students to sort of be mentors and help out a student. So if they find that there's a child in a pinny standing on their own, encouraging the older students to connect and help that child get connected in. So it's just a way so that we have all eyes knowing who's new to this experience and how they can best be supported.
And usually each kindergarten class has like one solid color of pennies. So the kids might say, I'm on the red team or the blue team or whatever as well.
And then we have, are there opportunities for a child interested in playing violin at school, music classes and practices?
Well, there are definitely music is taught in school. Most schools have a music specialist teaching music. Some schools have the classroom teachers teach music. There's not usually lessons per se, and instruments are introduced as the children get older. So for example, recorders sort of happen around grade 3 and 4. Ukuleles happen a little bit after that. And some schools for grade 6 and 7 have a band program that would allow the students to play a variety of different instruments.
And we just have 2 more questions here. One is, are there any field trips in kindy?
There
Yes.
sure are. And again, that can be teacher dependent for how many that there are, but I would say that every kindergartner will be on at least one field trip during the school year, and so they'll all get the chance to ride a bus at some point in the school year.
Do the kindy kiddos get to play on the playground, or is that reserved for the big kids? So often there's multiple playgrounds on at schools, one primary playground and maybe an intermediate playground. So the kindergartens will have access to a playground, and often if there is another playground that is enticing, but not where they are designated to play. I know as a kindergarten teacher, I used to, during other times, maybe an outdoor gym time, where we would be able to go when it's just our class to explore that playground without all the big kids clamoring around. But I think all kindergarten students have access to a playground.
Yeah, I think it's actually the opposite. Some of the older kids wishing they still had more access because lots of times it's primaries only. And, you know, the big kids still like to play on the swings and be on those as well. But they also go out for body breaks during the day. And sometimes they're there playing grounders or whatever, the tag game that they like to play on the playground equipment when there aren't so many little kids there.
And I think that that's it for all of the questions in perfect timing.
I thought I would just add around field trips. As parents and caregivers, I really encourage you to volunteer and be a part of the field trips. It's a great way to connect with other families and kids in the class and get to know the teacher a bit more. And if you're new to the school or the community, a great way to also connect with other families and kids and parents and caregivers, and you get to go on great little adventures too. So it's fun being a part of that. So I do encourage that for sure.
Yeah, and you usually have to get your criminal record check done
Yes.
as well. And so you can ask about that. There's a standard sort of practice for that across the district. All right. Well, thank you so much for attending. We hope you found this useful. We were wondering if we waited too long in the year to have this. So if you have an idea about, like, if you wish you had this information in March, or if it's just perfect in May, because that's when you're really starting to think about kindergarten, or if you would have wanted it in January, if you could just put it in the chat or the Q&A, just the name of the month, that would help us to know. And if you had any suggestions about the session as well, you could put that in the chat or the Q&A for us, because we'll have access afterwards and we can look through the information. So again, thank you and have a great rest of your evening.
Thanks, everyone.
I can hear lots coming through the chat.
Yeah.